Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this extraordinary planning committee, Thursday, the 12th of February. I'm Councillor Amanda Burrell and I'm the chair of this committee. Just do a few introductions. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed by HDC. Members and public speakers must use the desk microphones, otherwise the recording will not work. Only 2 microphones, in addition to the chairman's, can be on at the same time. Mobile phones. Members and the public should switch off their phones, please. Fire exits. The fire exits are at that door and this one, and the meeting point is at the top of Mill Hill Car Park. Leaving during the meeting. People may come and go normally during the meeting. Council is aware that planning applications may be controversial and emotive for those affected by the decisions made by this committee. However, everyone present is reminded that the council will not tolerate abusive or aggressive behaviour towards staff or other visitors attending this meeting, and anyone behaving inappropriately will be required to leave the meeting and the building. Right, we'll get on with the agenda now. First item is apologies for absence. Councillor Bannister is absent today and he's being substituted by Councillor Bateman over there. And I'll just ask all the members of the committee to introduce themselves, starting with Councillor Graves, please.
Councillor Graves for Broughton Astley South and Lear Ward.
Councillor Peter James for Little Bowden Ward in Market Harbour and Vice Chair of Planning.
Councillor John Bateman for the Misterton Ward.
Councillor Martin Sarfis for the Lutterworth East Ward.
Sarah Hamilton, Democratic Services Officer.
Keith Thompson, Legal Services. Adrian Eastwood, Head of Development Management.
Mark Patterson, Strategic Growth Manager.
Nicola Parry, Development Management Team Leader.
Ruth Meadows-Smith, Strategic Growth Officer.
Michaela Barton, Planning Enforcement Team Leader.
Rory Feeney-Mackay, Planning Compliance Officer.
Peter Elliott, Thurmby and Houghton Ward.
Josh Wall, Broughton Astley South and Lear.
Simon Wellbound, Kipwoods.
Councillor Moder, Bilston and Tilton Wards.
Peter Scott, Glen Ward.
Thank you, everyone. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of members' interests. Does anyone have any declarations they wish to put forward? Councillor Gare?
Item 7 on the agenda. I'm a member of Lutterworth Town Council who have met to discuss this and made a recommendation to Harbour District Council.
Thank you. All right. Well, we don't have any minutes to decide on, so. Oh, sorry, Councillor James.
It's me actually, Councillor James.
I did say Councillor James.
It's in connection with the Friendship Park because I did campaign for that and organised a petition. Perhaps I could get legal advice. I don't know whether I should partake in that application.
Want to comment?
The Friendship Park being is that the last item?
Yeah, that's sculpture.
Sorry, I've just yeah, I think that if you would be thinking about bias rather than an interest, and so actually, yeah, there's a section of the Localism Act 2011 that governs it, provided that you're here today to listen to the debate and come with an open mind, then that would be fine.
Okay, that's fine. I believe I'm okay with that. Thank you for the advice. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, item 3 on the agenda is the application at Zoo Shui Bushby 25/00219/FUL, erection of a discount Lidl food store. The presenting officer is Mark Patterson. Carry on, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for the erection of a retail facility for use as a discount food store and to be occupied by Lidl. The application site is in Bushby. We'll have a quick look at some of the slides. So you can see here on the slide before you, this is the application site. to the north of the A47 and immediately east of Zouch Way, which runs north-south just here. You can see on this map the closest public rights of way marked in red, conservation area shaded in yellow over here, and TPOs shaded in green. Move on to the aerial photo. Again, you can see the site, application site in this location, the A47 running through the middle of the photo here with Zouch Way running through here. The application site itself does form part of a wider allocation or draft allocation in the emerging local plan. The allocation, draft allocation is for 125 dwellings and doesn't contain an element of retail provision as part of that allocation. So in terms of the proposed layout, again, you can see Uppingham Road running through just here. Access to the site would be gained from Zouch Way. There's an existing field access in this location here, which would be widened and modified to create the access to the site. Pedestrian access again would be via Zouch Way with an additional pedestrian access from Uppingham Road in this location. And the store itself would be situated in the northeastern corner of the application site, with the main entrance to the facility in the southwestern corner and the loading delivery bay on the eastern elevation of the shop. The slide before you shows the original submission in terms of the elevation treatment of the building. As officers were not happy with this proposal and sought with the applicants to come up with an amended elevational treatment for the building. What's before you this evening is this proposal with red brick to the lower part of the building, and then a timber effect fibre cement cladding to the upper part of the building. Members who were on the site visit on Monday will have noticed that the site does fall away from the A47, and this cross section shows how that will be, how that change in topography will be treated to facilitate the development. So you can see the dotted line which runs through is the existing ground levels, and then where the shop would sit, the ground would be made up to create a level platform for it. You can see at this side, the site itself does sit considerably below the A47, and that the ground level to the south of the site. This plan indicates the proposed landscaping that's to be installed on the site. So you can see along the southern boundary, you have the existing tree belt running along, which is outside of the application site and sits between the application site itself and the A47. That would be supplemented on the northern side, just within the site, with further planting, including trees, and that would be continued around the eastern and western boundaries, with further planting on the slope to the north of the application site in this location here. As officers, we felt that more could be done in terms of this landscape proposal, particularly in terms of the internal planting, which you'll see the proposal doesn't feature any internal planting, and officers did suggest an amendment to the scheme and proposing additional planting within the car park area. This would have resulted in the loss of 6 parking spaces, but the applicants pushed back quite firmly on this, particularly in relation to health and safety issues with pedestrians moving around the car park area. So if we move on to some photographs and photo montages of the site. So this is the view looking from Zouch Way towards the south, and the A47 in the background here. The access point, as I said earlier, is effectively a modification of this existing farm access in this location. So this is a view along the A47 as you come into Thurmby and Bushby. You've got the tree belt that I've referred to in this location here, which would be retained. And this is a similar view, but indicating how the proposed facility would sit behind that hedgerow. This is the view from the A47, looking northeast across the site or towards the site across the Zouchway Junction. And this is a photo montage provided by the applicants from a similar location, indicating the proposed building and how it would largely sit behind the proposed and existing landscaping. One thing to note is that this photo montage does show the original materials rather than the proposed materials that, as officers, we've sought to agree with the applicants. And this is a longer distance view of the site from the south at Covert Lane, looking across the valley. The application site is in this green field here. If we move on to the next image, with similar viewpoint across the valley, you can make out the building in this location here with the tree planting that I mentioned in front of it, providing that screen. There are some additional information, additional bits of information on the supplementary list, Chair, and also there are speakers on the application. So I'll hand back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yes, we've got 4 speakers tonight. I've allowed another extra speaker, Mr. Robert Craig, who was away when all the information went out about speakers. So I've used my chairman's discretion and allowed him to speak. But our first speaker is Michael Gilbert. If you'd like to come forward, please. Got Michael Gilbert? What's that? All right. Mr. Craig, would you like to speak first? Right, Mr. Craig, if you'd like to sit at the table and switch the microphone on, you've got 6 minutes to speak. Yeah, because there are 2 supporters and there's only one of you, so you get to 6 minutes. Want to switch the microphone? I'll just press the button.
Okay, you got me?
Yeah.
Yes, context. I'm a late speaker because, yes, I didn't know about, I've been touring the boards, a number of companies across Europe, and I've been touring meetings, having board meetings, and I only found out when I got off the plane that this meeting was actually taking place. So you'll forgive me if, when I do speak, I'll probably read from what notes I've made. But the first comment is, you've seen the planning outline. You've seen the green fields that you're looking at. This planning application is totally out of context for the area and environment in which it's proposed to be put in. Thurmby, Scraptoft, Bushby have been an evolving set of villages with additional housing as it's went, and converted a lot of the big gardens, of which I'm one of the last ones remaining there, and I've been there for 42 years. And you can see my house on the diagram, but it's due to the harbour's sensitive handling of planning applications that have seen those villages of Scraptoft, Thurmby, Bushby evolving in the way they have, with the demographics they've got, which is a balanced community. This is totally out of context. You showed the long distance views across fields looking onto this proposed development. Now imagine you're building houses there. That's the view they're going to have, plus all the ones that are off Zouchway, they're going to be looking onto that. This is not a retail park. This is a natural village environment that has evolved over the years. Now, to put it in context, the last Bloor development that was on that site put forward a proposal for additional convenience store on the site. That was 4 years ago. The whole site's completed and not one convenience store branded has put forward or wanted to put a retail site there. Now, the main reason for that is the evolution of Thurmby and Bushby has made up of a creation of a wide cross-section of convenience stores. To put it in context, within that 1 mile radius of that store is 5 or 6 branded Co-op, Tesco, whatever you call them, convenience stores. Some of those convenience stores have expanded the footprint to have precincts around them. So coming off those precincts are pharmacies, beauty salons, opticians, paper shops, and they've all built up around these villages, and they serve the village very well. Hence, nobody's put forward a proposal to add another convenience store. Now, what will happen to those, whatever little think, they won't bring a employment to the area. For that little store is going to affect not only the branded convenience stores, but it's also going to have a knock-on effect on the footfall that goes from that stores and feeds the other facilities and outlets that have come to exist. Now, we've seen what happens when these local shopping precincts start to come apart. They start to get filled with other less desirable elements, and you get all sorts of things. Now, I can't claim that's an absolute, but we know that's the way this churns. Now, to top it all this, Thurmby Bushby Scrap Top is not a retail outlet. There's no real demand. Now, I noticed that one thing was said before, that there is a planning application in for the houses, 123 houses that back onto that. Well, and they're doing that as a joint, saying it's one is going to feed the other. That's nonsense. It's done by the local farmers. The agents are both the same for both those developments, so they've got a beneficial interest in each receiving planning permission. And on top of that, there's another 900 coming in. And we know why, because your planning application that Mark spent years developing has now had to go back. So all these are now coming on back to back to take up the opportunity of that gap being in planning. And I would sincerely recommend that we delay things like this, wait till the new plan comes through, and then deal with it as you've always dealt with it, on a very sympathetic way of allowing the villages to evolve. Because what's also, most people here won't know, right next door to the little, it's going to be the local cricket club lawns. Well, no, it's about 50 metres away, sorry. It's the local cricket club and its lawns, all part of...
Mr. Craig, 30 seconds remaining.
How much?
30 seconds left.
I thought you said I had 6 minutes.
You have already had 5
Am I?
minutes. 30.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologise for that. I think I've made my point to a large extent, but there is things. We've talked about the impact of the services. Noise and disturbance. Traffic, there is not sufficient turning distance. If you look at the plan, there's a tiny little service pull off. If I'm heading out of the city, going west, I pull into the central reservation, whatever traffic's
Mr. Craig, sorry, your time is up.
Fine. I'm going to be in a head-on collision with all that traffic. Thank you.
Mr. Craig. Has anyone got any questions for Mr. Craig? No. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Gilbert. You've got 3 minutes, Mr. Gilbert, and you'll be given a 30-second warning. If you want to start when you're ready, the microphone's on, isn't it?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee in support of this planning application on behalf of our client Lidl. At the outset, we'd like to firmly endorse the very clear and unequivocal conclusions reached in the committee report and the recommendation the planning permission should be granted for this Lidl food store. The committee report provides a very comprehensive and thorough assessment of every aspect of this proposal against the relevant development plan policies, together with national planning policies, and concludes the application is in full compliance with all relevant planning policies and material considerations. As confirmed within the report, it's recommended for approval on the following grounds. In terms of planning policy considerations, the officers have confirmed the principle of development is considered to be acceptable. The site forms part of a proposed allocation in the emerging local plan. Therefore, the council has already accepted the principle of developing this site together with the land to the north and to the east. The scheme makes efficient use of a sustainable site immediately adjacent to existing residential development. It will provide improved shopping choice for the local population and contribute to the local economy. In this context, officers have also confirmed that the development accords with all relevant policies with respect to retail planning, and that's been independently verified and vetted by the council's own consultants. In terms of highways and transportation, Leicestershire County Council was fully satisfied. The proposal is acceptable in highways terms, provides appropriate and safe access for all users, appropriate parking, and appropriate delivery provision as well. To promote sustainable travel, Lidl would also create a pedestrian link from the bus stop along Uppingham Road and offer cycle parking provision as well. In relation to design, Lidl has worked constructively and collaboratively with the council to bring forward a proposal which will contribute positively to the area. It's been amended through the planning process to incorporate red brick, timber cladding, as we heard earlier, complementing the nearby residential development, glazing, fronting Zouche Way, promoting an active frontage, and a 5-metre landscape buffer, as well as retaining the existing landscaping, as you heard on the presentation earlier. It's the very clear view of your professional officers that the application is acceptable in all respects and the planning permission should be granted. I'd also like to take the opportunity to reiterate the development will deliver a very wide range of clear and substantial benefits. The development represents significant investment by Lidl, including the delivery of 40 new jobs.
Mr. Gilbert, 30 seconds remaining.
It will result in a sustainable food store, complementing the emerging residential development in the area, and will offer an attractive facility. The food store will be in a highly sustainable location, provides genuine opportunities for a wide range of different transport modes. Therefore, it fully accords with the development plan, benefits from the presumption in favour of sustainable development, which the NPPF implores local authorities to place significant weight on in terms of economic growth and productivity. We therefore request that you approve the application in line with the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Has anyone got any questions? No? Thank you. Our next speaker is Natalie Lloyd. If you'd like to come forward. You've got 3 minutes as well, and you'll be given a 30-second warning. If you'd like to start when you're ready. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening. I'm Natalie Lloyd, Senior Acquisitions Manager for Lidl. The proposals before you today have been shaped directly by local feedback. There is significant community support for our proposals with over 750 positive responses. A new store would increase local choice and competition, delivering households easy access to Lidl's unique combination of great value and quality products. Many residents told us during our ongoing engagement that they currently have to travel some distance to shop affordably and welcome a Lidl close to home or within walking distance. We have worked constructively with officers to ensure this store fits the character of Bushby. We've amended the design to include the red brick and timber cladding to the elevations to be more in keeping with its surroundings. Additionally, we've added significant landscaping buffers to the existing mature trees and hedgerows to further reduce any impacts of the development and ensure it fits well with the landscape. Members will see from the images that the development sits lower than Zouche Way, providing effective screening from the road and neighbouring properties. Lidl prides itself on being a good neighbour, and we work hard to minimise impacts around noise and lighting. There are typically 1 or 2 HGV deliveries per day, and all delivery activity is undertaken within the store building. Deliveries take around 45 minutes to complete, and waste is taken away on the return journey. Lights are turned off an hour after the store has closed. Beyond the site itself, this is a multi-million-pound investment in Bushby. Following our latest investment, Lidl is now the highest paying supermarket in the UK, and Lidl colleagues will be the only employees within the industry to benefit from the real living wage nationwide, continuing our long-term commitment to match this benchmark. Most importantly, in the face of a cost of living crisis, this store provides access to affordable food that could save local shoppers up to 30% on their weekly shop. Our stores are a pillar of local communities. We support local good causes through our food distribution programme, Feed It Back, and our free Lidl Foodies initiative, which helps primary school children learn about fresh food and healthy eating. We believe the proposals would benefit the local community here in Bushby now and in the future. Our plans set to increase choice and access to affordable shopping in a convenient location. I would therefore urge members to approve the application today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Moder.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions, Miss Lloyd. Firstly, you said that lights go off an hour after close. So normally it's 8 to 10 p.m, is it, Lidl? So lights will be off at 11 p.m.
Yes, so we have a building management system, so they're all controlled and they switch off as set on the timers.
Okay, and the second thing is, when you say the deliveries, they're normally quite the large lorries that deliver. What time of day does that normally happen? Is it during the time they're open, or would that be?
So we have discussed with the case officer and agreed some delivery hour restrictions. So deliveries would be during daytime hours.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is the ward councillor, Councillor Simon Galton, who has 5 minutes. You'd like to start when you're ready, Simon?
Yes,
You know
thank
the
you.
drill.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'd like to say a little bit about this application. The pre-application, and thank the officers because it's a really thorough report that does well assess the proposal. The pre-application recognised that development would have a detrimental impact on the character of the surrounding area. What you're talking about here is right on the edge of the settlement of Fernby and Bushby. It's countryside. Yes, there is going to be planned housing development, but I would suggest that retail is very different in terms of its impact. So we recognise that the growth in the area, there needs to be more choice, not arguing about that at all, but the proposal does conflict with a number of policies, contrary to what the previous speaker said. It does conflict with GD5. It does conflict, in my opinion, with GD8. And generally, we have not gone for having retail development in this area. It's predominantly been focused at Market Harborough, at Lutterworth, and there is some at Broughton Astley. Yeah, it's predominantly not been allowed to happen along the A47. It is predominantly a residential area, and then it's countryside. So this will, if approved, introduce significant amount of change to the character of the area. And as I say, it is contrary to a number of policies. Now, obviously, that's being balanced against the benefits that have been put forward. But notwithstanding the change that has been negotiated in terms of materials and so on, what we have here pretty much is a standard design that could be put down anywhere in a town centre, for example. And it was my hope that actually we could have persuaded Lidl to come up with something bespoke, a better design, which fits into the character of the surrounding landscape. There really was an opportunity here to design something more akin to a rural building that would fit in. Now, it is finely balanced. As I said, the starting position was that this was against policy, and that was the advice given to the applicant in the pre-application. So what I'm really saying is we've tried to press for some changes. They've been resisted. Mark mentioned better landscaping in the area. They've been resisted by the applicant on the basis for operational reasons, and their model doesn't fit with that. But I would say that the most important thing is trying to, if it is going to go ahead, to get it to assimilate and respect the character of the area, which as I say is countryside, and we're missing an opportunity here to get something better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Any questions? Councillor Wellband?
Yes, thank you, Simon. What would you suggest to make the supermarket better, in your opinion?
Well, if you, instead of having it a standard design, you would have a bespoke design where they'd have to employ an architect and come up with something that's not off the shelf. I would suggest that it could be designed, I don't know, to fit more like what you would see in a rural area in terms of the building. I would suggest more wood cladding, just to get away from this standard. I mean, the height. Let's take the height for example. So the height is maximum of 7.2 meters, and I have questioned this. The recently opened Aldi store in Market Harborough is less than that. Why do we have to have a building in a predominantly countryside location that's higher than one in the middle of the town? We've asked that question, can't get an answer on that. So there's opportunities being missed to sort of start from the drawing board with the design rather than just picking one that could go anywhere in the country. That's my argument. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Galton and Simon, I noticed somewhere in the report, the parish council have adopted a neutral position. Can you elaborate a bit more on that, please?
I can't really, because I wasn't at the meeting where it was discussed, but my understanding, yeah, I mean, as was indicated by one of the speakers, they undertook quite a bit of pre-application consultation. There was a flyer delivered to the community. It went quite a wide area, wider than the immediate local area, and they got the response that they told you, the people that were in favour. Now, clearly, the parish council can't ignore that. It needs to take that on board. But that, in my opinion, that's not the argument. The argument is we could do something better than what we've got in front of us tonight.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you very much. Anyone else? No. Oh, Councillor Salfas.
Are you saying building size would be something like in Harborough? That kind of size, are you looking for a much?
Not so concerned about the size. It's true that the convenience store that was put forward on adjacent piece of land, that would have been, I think, 500 square metres. This is 1,516. So it is substantially bigger than what was originally proposed and will perform a different function. I accept that. I do have concerns about the height. And as I say, there are examples of other convenience stores that are not so high, and in my opinion, have less of an impact.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Oh, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. What's your opinion on the allowing people to use a store that has affordability that's been put forward, that people can save 30% on their on their shop? Isn't that significant?
Well, I'm in favour of choice, but I'm not sure that's really a planning. No, it doesn't really address design.
But
I'm saying you can have that, but you could also have a better design, a better building.
The planning should take into account people's views and people's opinions and and their socio-economic situations.
That's true, but there are also objections, as the report sets out.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Right, thank you, Simon. It's open to the committee now. Councillor Elliott?
Yes, I know the site very well. I was on the site visit the other day. It's not ideal, I'd be the first to admit that. But we've known for years, well, a long time, that there's going to be a superstore on there. If it could become a little lower in height, that's good. But I don't see anything too wrong with it. But I'll hear what everybody else says. One thing I would like to see is that all the trees in the landscaping are native trees and of a decent size. But like I say, I'll listen to what everybody else has got to say.
Councillor Wellband.
Yes, thank you. I was following on from that really. I'm not totally convinced by the objections to this. I mean, one of the objections I heard was about competing with other shops, and as far as I'm aware, that's not a planning consideration of ours that we can consider. And in terms of the design, it's a supermarket. It's always going to look like a supermarket. There's no getting around that. And I take Councillor Goldman's point about it being higher than the Aldi store in Market Harbour, but then again, it is set down from the road. So I think the effect's going to be minimal in terms of the way it looks. So I think I'm going to propose approval. Thank you.
Okay, you're proposing approval. Councillor Worrell, you seconded. Okay. Mark, you got something to say?
Yeah, just quickly, just to clarify for Councillor Wellband, in terms of the impact on other retail facilities in the area, it is something we can consider. It's not that we look at competition, because that's not a planning issue, but impact on vitality of retail offerings is something we consider. The applicants did submit a retail impact assessment, and we've had that independently verified as part of the application, which is set out in the report. It concludes that this proposal wouldn't have a detrimental impact upon the vitality and viability of those facilities.
Thank you for that, Mark. I'm all in favour of competition anyway, so I'm still happy with my original proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone, Councillor James, you've got something to say? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I've not opened all the papers out in front of me just at a second, but I'm just thinking about the highways access. And we were, as Councillor said, we were on site, and it's simply, if you're going towards Peterborough, it will be a left turn. Yeah. Now, I'm just wondering whether, so local people will know what's going on, but there's a lot of traffic, of course, runs the A47, as we know. And I just wonder how much passing traffic, because, you know, I could imagine that commercial vehicles go in and Holiday will stop for lunch or somewhere, we'll pick up some sandwiches. And I think there'll be quite a lot of passing traffic, and you know, that might brake hard and go into there and coming out. And I see that, I know the Leicestershire County Council said it's all satisfactory, but I'm just concerned about passing traffic that might want to dive in there. If I can make that comment, Chair.
Yeah, I think highways were happy with it, but Mark may like to say something about highways.
Yeah, Mark can help, please, on that point about the traffic management around that junction.
Yep, so if we could have the slides up, please. So in terms of access provisions on the A47 itself, they're not proposed to be changed. And so what we have, just to make out on the aerial photo here, there's for traffic travelling west towards Leicester, there's a right-hand turn lane into Zouche Way, and with quite a substantial filter at that point. Those provisions aren't to be changed. The access to the facility itself is from Zouche Way in this location here. So the right-hand turn lane is in this position, with access into the shop and car park at this location. In terms of how people drive, I think it's something I've said before at committee, we cannot legislate for how people drive. We can only provide for what the Highways Authority consider to be a safe point of access into a development. The mannerisms of people's driving, we cannot control. And Highways have assessed the application and are happy with the proposals as set out.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Do we know, is the speed limit 40 there? Is it? I thought it was.
Yes, it's a 40 mile an hour limit, with 40 mile an hour point being around about this location here at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chair.
I think there was some discussion, Mark, wasn't there, about lorries actually turning off Zouche Way into the site. The highways were
Yes.
Discussion, shall we say, with Lidl about that?
Yeah, one of the issues through the consideration of the development, so of the application has been in terms of the what highways refer to as the swept path analysis, ensuring there was sufficient space for manoeuvres in terms of HGVs turning into the site off of Zeesh Way, and the applicants had to go away and do further work on that, providing tracking diagrams indicating that it can be achieved.
And have they decided it can be achieved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone got any more comments? Councillor Moder?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think just a couple of comments, really. I think when you look at it, you think, wow, convenience, great, a little store on the A47, you know, everyone's going to love it and it's going to be, you know, great. But then looking at the objections, the 91 objectors, and then you look at actually where it is and what it's about and what it's going to look like, it feels to me, historically, when we're talking about the agreed location of the previous scheme with the houses and the retail, it made sense aesthetically, lower impact, and that's why it was agreed at the time, because we all looked at it and we thought, yes, houses and retail, they blend really well together and it's in a position that we can accept. Now, looking at this one, I'm not saying that I'm against it. I'm just thinking that firstly, it's on the doorstep of all these residential properties that, and you can't hide it. You know, you're going to be going home, driving home, going to school, going to work, and you're going to see this big little, and we all know what they look like. Now, going back to Councillor Galton's point of maybe looking at it from a countryside, rural point of view, I know that Lidl say that it doesn't fit in with their plans, that, you know, they can't make it any different. But then looking at what they've done elsewhere in the country, there have been councils that have actually pointed out these exact same principles to the council, to the planners, and they've come up with a list of Lidls that have actually incorporated a different design because they've been in positions where they've had to, because that's what the public and the council have demanded. An example would be a countryside sensitive design proposed and actually now built in Sandford in Devon, just outside the village boundary. I mean, this is one of 8 or 9 that I've looked at where the council have actually said to them, look, you know, we want you, and, you know, it's a great sort of store to have in the locality. We're not saying we're against it, but it's got to fit in with our district. Not that we've got to fit in with your plans. So I'm all in favour of what Councillor Galton said, that yes, you know, we agree it's a great scheme, but if there was something that they could do for us that they've done elsewhere in the country, then I would be more in favour of doing something like that. It's just a suggestion. Thank you, Chair.
I think you're right. I think it'll stick out like a sore thumb, and it's just a box essentially on quite a sensitive part of the village. But I think we are where we are. I don't know what Mark could suggest. We've already got a proposal. But
I think as we have a proposal, obviously we need to go to the vote on that and see how it goes.
Yeah, Councillor Scott, do you want? You don't want a second thing? Okay, well, if Councillor James.
Just a point about the history, this parcel of land, has that always been identified as retail land? Is that the intention from the very outset, Mark? Is
Well, it's been a field for a very long time.
So in terms of this particular piece of land, there's no, there is some limited planning history on it that relates to residential development. The land immediately on the opposite side of Zeesh Way, so this area here has got an extant consent for retail provision on it. This is the element that Councillor Galton referred to in terms of the 500 square metre facility. That's indicated in the committee reports at figures 9 and 10 on page 7 of your reports. So that consent is there, it's extant, it could be developed at any stage. But the application site itself has not had any previous history for residential development. The emerging draft local plan allocation is purely for housing, not for retail and housing.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sarfas.
We just asked planning the question. Obviously, this building facility is big. Why did they not look at other remote buildings that were similar to, you know, which would fit in more than, you know, this is quite a big building for this place where there are other places that have had that and had it adjusted into their community.
Yeah, we have worked with the applicants, and I have pushed as far as I feel I can push the applicants on that, and they have resisted amending the design as part of my initial pre-app response and my initial response to the application. I pointed them in the direction of alternative schemes elsewhere where different proposals have been drawn up and have been developed. However, they have resisted that, those attempts to change it, and the most that we could get was the amendments to the materials proposed.
Councillor
Can I ask if it's on a bus route at the moment, please?
Yes, there is a bus route, and part of the reason for the direct access from the car park to Uppingham Road is because that's where the bus stop is. There's a bus stop literally in this location here.
I have to point out it's only a 2-hourly service for most.
Sorry?
It's only a 2-hourly service for most of the day.
No, we're used to that in most.
Councillor Scott, you've popped up again, Councillor Scott. Would you like to put your microphone on?
I've developed my question. I'm sorry. Can I ask Mark, was there any thought to provision of extra electric vehicle charging spaces? I thought 2 was quite minimal, really.
Yeah, the plans are to provide 2 at the moment, but the indications from the applicants are that the infrastructure would be there and put in to facilitate further provision as and when it's required. So at the moment, it's only relatively limited provision, but it doesn't preclude it in the future. Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Everyone else? I think we'll probably move to the vote now. It's been proposed and seconded by Councillor Wellband and Councillor Worrell that we approve this application. So Sarah will now take over the vote.
So a proposal has been made to approve the application. I'll now ask each councillor in turn to say whether they're for the approval, against the approval, or whether you abstain. Councillor Bateman?
For the approval.
Councillor Burrell?
Against.
Councillor Elliott?
For.
Councillor Gare?
For.
Councillor Graves?
For.
Councillor James?
For.
Councillor Moder?
Against.
Councillor Sarfas?
For.
And Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Wellband?
For.
And Councillor Worrell?
For.
We have now 9 councillors voting for the proposal, 2 councillors against, so the motion to approve the application is carried.
Okay, so that application is approved. Thank you, everybody. Our next application is at Smeaton Road, Smeaton Westerby. 25/00793/OUT. Outline application for the erection of 28 affordable dwellings. It's on page 70 of your papers, and Nicola Parry is presenting for us.
Thank you. Good evening. Firstly, just to make you aware that on the supplementary paper, we've had 1 additional public representation has been received, and we've also had a reiteration of objection from Ward Councillor King.
Secondly, the site was subject to a member site visit on Monday, and there will be some photographs later on in the presentation. The proposal relates to an agricultural field between the settlements of Kibworth and Smeaton Westerby. The field contributes to and has been recognised in the council's most up-to-date separation area evidence as being intrinsically valuable to the sense of separation between the villages. The field is used for grazing cattle. It contains areas of ridge and furrow earthworks. Electricity pylons cross the site in an east-west direction, as does a high-pressure gas pipeline. Land levels generally slope down across the site from north to south and west to east. There are also several public rights of way around the site, as you can see here. So the red dashed lines are the public rights of way that you can see. Kibworth Medical Centre is to the immediate north of the site, and Kibworth Mead Academy Secondary School partially lies opposite the site to the east. Both land uses and their buildings are well screened by trees and foliage. They are relatively low density developments. The site is not within the conservation area of either village, but it is judged to affect the setting, in particular the setting of Smeaton Westerby Conservation Area. Special attention must be paid to preserving or enhancing the character or appearance of the conservation areas, and if harm is identified, the decision must attach great weight to it. For approval to be granted, such harm must be outweighed by the public benefit. So now we're on to some photographs. So this is the view of the site from Smeaton Road. We've got a picture taken in July, and then one taken on Monday that I was just referring to. This is the existing field gate into the site, and you can see obviously the electricity pylons that I was just referring to. This is the view of the site on the opposite side of Smeaton Road. This is the view looking towards Kibworth and Smeaton Westerby adjacent to the site field gate. You can see how close both villages are when standing in that location. This is looking towards a medical centre and the agricultural barn from the field gate. This is the school opposite the barn and the medical centre. Again, you can see it's very low development and relatively well screened. Again, you can see the site on the left-hand side of this picture, and then the school and the field that's opposite that site. And that's the field again opposite the site. You can see the continuation of the electricity pylons. So the proposal is to create a new access from Smeaton Road into the site and erect 28 affordable dwellings. Access and layout are matters to be assessed as part of this application. Scale, appearance, landscape are reserved matters. The applicant has indicated how they expected to develop the site, as you can see before you, and they provided an artist's impression. So it will be 2-storey dwellings. So key issues to consider. Obviously, as a starting point, there is a strong support for the application because it would deliver 28 dwellings in a sustainable location at a time of 5-year supply shortfall. Additional weight in support of the application is derived from the 100% affordable housing nature of the application, which goes beyond the local planning authority's requirement for 40% affordable housing provision. Moreover, because the district has a specific shortfall in provision of affordable housing. The application must be approved unless there is a strong reason for refusing the development proposed, or the adverse impacts of approving the application would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. Officers consider that the cumulative harm of the proposal would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. Harm is identified in the following considerations. The proposed development would create a dense area of residential development, which would be out of keeping with its surroundings. The development would not form a cohesive or harmonious extension to the village of Kibworth Beecham. It would not integrate into the village context. The development would degrade the surrounding countryside landscape setting of the villages. The development would significantly degrade the separation between the two villages of Kibworth and Smeaton Westerby, harming their separate identity. The development would harm the rural setting of Smeaton Westerby Conservation Area, which officers considered that moderate less than substantial weight would result. Again, as I referred to earlier, great weight should be given. And the above harm would be witnessed from various public rights of way around the site, thereby degrading their integrity and value. Outstanding reserve matters or planning considerations could not make this fundamentally unacceptable development acceptable, and therefore officers recommend that the application is refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. We've got quite a few speakers on this application. The first is Ian Carpenter. If you'd like to come forward and switch the microphone on. You've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning when you get close to the end. Start whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I've lived in this village for over 30 years. Many issues with this application have been already identified by the planning officers, making specific reference to the planning policies that they conflict with. I wish to highlight my own personal concerns about the location, appearance and environmental impacts. Smeaton Westerby has a strong community spirit and welcomes newcomers. Nearly all of its 160 households are located within the established settlement edge. If built, this development risks creating a separate enclave, neither in Smeaton Westerby nor in Kibworth Beecham. As stated, the two-storey houses proposed would be highly visible. Some would be just 13 metres from the pavement of Main Street, for some reason called Smeaton Road. Others less than 45 metres from the well-used public footpath between Smeaton Westerby and Kibworth Beecham. The controversially cited medical centre is a single-storey building, over 30 metres from the pavement and faced with wood, all of which lessen its impact. The unusable area of this site has been proposed as a public open space. This is in spite of the obvious dangers of allowing unsupervised access by children around high-voltage power lines. Surveys of this site have identified evidence of protected bats and badgers, as well as ancient hedges and mature trees. The biggest threat to wildlife population is habitat loss. This development would result in loss and degradation of the habitat through construction activity, noise levels, light disturbance, vehicles and domestic pets. Smeaton Westerby is not opposed to change. Centuries of change have created the village we love, but without significantly altering its heart and historic layout. In 1980, Beaker Close was completed, a development of 15 detached houses. This was on the site of the former Slater's factory, near the centre of the village. This was an example of well-considered design, fully integrated with the village and in an appropriate location. I can find no evidence that this application meets any of these essential criteria. I request that you refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carpenter. Has anyone got any questions? Thank you. Our next speaker is Colin Rowe. You two have got 3 minutes. You'll be given a 30-second warning if you'd like to start when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to object to this planning application and would like to raise specific heritage concerns. I'd like to draw the Planning Committee's attention to an important point that is made within the Professional Heritage Impact Assessment commissioned by Smeaton Parish Council. The report states that the proposal will cause less than substantial harm to historic non-designated heritage asset landscape features, specifically the medieval ridge and furrow, 3/5 of which will be lost forever. It also points to the importance of the historic hedgerow boundaries. It notes the risk of irreversible harm to these non-designated heritage assets and also notes that whilst ridge and furrow is a relatively common, albeit diminishing, feature of fields in Leicestershire, here the context for these earthworks has a specific heritage interest in demonstrating the open field system of Smeaton Westerby at its boundary with Kibworth Beecham. Professor Michael Wood describes the village of Smeaton Westerby in his publication The Story of England as no bigger than it was in the 1880s. Smeaton is a small farming hamlet with its own distinctive history going back to Anglo-Saxon times. Professor Wood's description of Smeaton Westerby highlights the significance of the relationship between the built form of the village, a clearly discernible nucleated historic settlement, together with its surrounding field system. This pattern remains readily apparent and is evident in the earthworks within the proposed development site. I took the liberty of personally contacting Professor Michael Wood in relation to this planning application, and if the Chair will permit me, I would like to read out Professor Michael Wood's own comments and opinions on this application. Smeaton Westerby Conservation Area is a historical landscape of special importance.
hence its role in the BBC TV series and my book, The Story of England, and indeed the subsequent grant by the Heritage Lottery Fund for a history trail, which recognises its national as well as local significance. It is vital to stress that this means that the whole wider landscape should be cared for the enjoyment of future generations, locals and visitors. It's a landscape of special status as it preserves layers of the past from medieval farming 1,000 years ago to the Industrial Revolution with canals, framework knitting factories and 19th century shops and workers' housing estates right through to the modern era. This is self-evidently worth preserving. The whole setting,
Mr Rose, 30 seconds remaining.
the whole setting positively contributes to appreciating Smeaton's special interest and its character and appearance as a rural settlement that is distinct and separate to Kibworth Beecham. The proposals, in my view, as a professional historian who knows Kibworth and Smeaton well and has written at length on their history, would obviously result in harm to the heritage value of Smeaton Westerby Conservation Area.
Thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions? No, thank you. Our next speaker is Simon Bradbury. Okay, you've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning. If you'd like to start when you're ready, please.
Thank you.
If you put the mic, is the microphone still on?
I think
Yeah.
it's on, yeah. Hello. Brilliant, thank you. Having nearly 40 years experience working in the construction industry, my objection to this application is in relation to technical issues I've noticed in the documentation. Firstly, the proposal is in clear conflict of the requirement to provide safe and suitable access for all users. The visibility displays rely on incorrect speed data taken within the traffic calm zone 190 metres north of the proposed entrance. The applicant's transport statement notes that an expected average speed in this location of 20 miles an hour. The actual average speed was, however, 27 miles an hour, 35% higher than expected. The tracking analysis shows that the service and refuse vehicles would overrun the footways, which represents an unacceptable risk to pedestrians, school children and disabled residents. The Stage 1 safety audit was carried out during the school holiday and after the morning rush, thus giving a false impression of how busy it can be with traffic and pedestrians past the site. Secondly, the existing gas main on the site will need relocating, and the gas governor located in the entrance will also need relocating. From my experience, this is likely to cost in excess of £1 million. The gas main also requires an easement of 12 metres. However, the plans contained in the design and access statement only show a 6-metre easement. This suggests that affordability could be questionable and that the layout is likely to have to change for a 4th time when the correct easement requirements are taken into consideration. Finally, the drainage systems. The surface water drainage strategy relies on third-party ditches and off-site connections which require consent from landowners and landowners concerned. Without these approvals, this is not a credible drainage solution and cannot be concluded that flood risk will not increase both on and off the site. The SUDS element of the system will need adopting. However, to date, there is no identified adopting body. This puts the system at risk of degradation, blockage and failure over time. Finally, the foul drainage solution is via an adoptable pumping station located on the site. This system is considerably more expensive than a non-adopted system, thus putting further pressure on the affordability of the properties. It also raises the question over potential issues with maintenance and the pumps failing. In summary, significant cost issues. Thank you. In summary, significant cost issues need to be resolved. The layouts may need to change again to coordinate with the existing services. Safe access isn't proven, and the drainage relies on unproven third-party consents. For these reasons, I respectfully request and ask members to refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions? The last speaker? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lizzie Beresford from the Parish Council. Are you from Smeaton Westby or Kibworth? Smeaton.
Representing Smeaton Westby.
Thank you. Okay, you've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning if you'd like to start when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking today on behalf of Smeaton Westby Parish Council to strongly object to this application. This is not a small edge of village scheme. It is a development in the open countryside beyond the settlement boundary on land that performs a clear planning role. It helps to protect rural setting and identity of Smeaton Westby, maintains the separation of Kibworth Beecham and contributes to the setting of designated heritage assets, including the Smeaton Westby Conservation Area and nearby listed buildings. Firstly, the principle of housing on this site is unacceptable. The land lies outside of the settlement boundary where new housing is strictly controlled. The proposal does not meet the limited exceptions that would justify development in the countryside, and it therefore conflicts with the spatial strategy and policy GD3. Approval would also weaken the settlement edge and create an unhelpful precedent for further outward expansion. Secondly, the proposal would undermine the area of separation. The Kibworth Villages Neighbourhood Plan identifies this gap for a clear purpose to prevent coalescence and protect the distinct identity of settlements. The evidence confirms that a separation here is already narrow and vulnerable, meaning that the remaining open land is critical to how the gap is experienced. Introducing 28 new dwellings would urbanise the village edge, reduce openness and permanently erode the separation in direct conflict with the Neighbourhood Plan Policy ENV6. Thirdly, the proposal conflicts with heritage policy. The Parish Council's independent heritage assessment concludes that development would cause less than substantial harm to the setting of the conservation area through loss of rural character, openness and the historic approach into the village. Members will know that less than substantial does not mean less than important. The law requires you to give considerable importance and weight to conserving heritage assets, and the NPPF requires great weight to be given to their conservation. In this case, the harm has not been clearly and convincingly justified, and it has not been demonstrated that it has been outweighed. The proposal therefore conflicts with policy HC1 and national heritage policy. Fourthly, the proposal risks harm to historic landscape features without sufficient evidence. The site contains visible medieval ridge and furrow and historic hedgerow boundaries, yet there is no proportionate archaeological evaluation to demonstrate impacts can be avoided or properly mitigated.
Ms. Verosa, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Finally, and significantly, while affordable housing is important, it is a generic benefit, not unique to this site, and it does not justify approving development that conflicts with the development plan and causes lasting harm. Chair and members, the planning balance has not been achieved, and the committee is respectfully requested to refuse this application in line with the reasons that I have set out and also presented by the officer in his report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions? No? Thank you. Our next speaker is Lance Wiggins, the agent. You've got 9 minutes, Lance.
I'm not going to take that long, Chair. Thank you very much.
Carry on. You know the drill.
Chair, members, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this application. Harbour District Council has always been rightly proud of the support that it offers towards the delivery of affordable housing. I attended a housing forum meeting last year where members were advised by your strategic housing enabling officer and the development partners of the difficulties being experienced with the delivery of affordable houses on market sites. The increased reliance on 100% affordable schemes in the district was certainly highlighted at that meeting. This application proposes 100% affordable housing in conjunction with EMH, one of your main development partners. The development will deliver 28 new dwellings as a significant contribution towards the overall housing delivery in the district. And these will be much needed, smaller, affordable homes for people in housing need. The comments of your housing enabler clearly indicate support for this rare opportunity to bring forward this partnership proposal. The site is located in Smeaton Westby, but immediately adjacent to Kibworth, one of the most sustainable villages in the district. Members will be aware that the application site is immediately to the south of the medical centre and opposite the secondary school. These are possibly the two most important services and facilities that residents could wish to be located next to. The site is not designated as an area of separation in the adopted local plan, and the site is outside of the boundaries of any neighbourhood plan. As the adopted local plan constitutes the development plan, the application should be determined in accordance with the policies contained within it. The area of separation review referred to is an evidence-based document for the emerging local plan, which of course has not yet been submitted for examination. Your officer's report acknowledges that the policies within the emerging local plan should be given very limited weight in the determination of applications at the present time. In terms of the impact of the development on landscape character, the submitted assessment concludes that the development would give rise to a medium to high adverse impact, but that would be mitigated by the retention of the existing hedge on the western site boundary and by new planting. This assessment was carried out in accordance with guidelines for landscape and visual assessments by an experienced landscape professional. Members will have seen from the submitted layout plan that due to the location of the existing overhead line and pylons, approximately half of the site would be undeveloped, and this would be given over to open space and biodiversity net gain. Applying the tilted balance, as of course you are required to do, it's clear in my view that the adverse impacts of the development would not significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. In this case, the benefits of the application are clear, namely the provision of 28 affordable homes, which would make a contribution towards the overall housing land supply in the district, and would also make a significant positive contribution towards meeting local housing needs. Contrary to your officer's view, the development would not have a significant effect on the character of this part of the countryside or either village. As detailed in the officer's report, there are no technical objections to the application, and I would urge members to approve the application in order to support the provision of affordable housing in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiggins. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Elliott? Put your microphone on. Doesn't come on.
Into the work.
There you are.
Are you saying that the separation, it's not in a separation area, this land?
That's correct. There is an area of separation which is, there are many areas of separation which are designated in the Harborough local plan, the adopted local plan. This isn't one of them. This site has been reviewed as part of the area of separation review, as I mentioned, and as other speakers have said. But that's not an adopted planning policy document. That's a piece of evidence that will be used for the emerging local plan. Thank you.
Councillor Scott?
Earlier speaker with some construction knowledge said that the viability of the site could be at risk with the various aspects. Would you like to comment on that? That's my first part of my question. And are you aware of the dangers of the two pylons in that locality? If I was buying a house in a locality like that, that would be one of my major concerns.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I mean, yes, through you. I mean, certainly, I was aware of the existence of the gas main, and yes, the speaker was absolutely correct. That will need to be relocated. I don't have any indication on the cost of that, I'm afraid. So, in terms of the effect on the viability of the scheme, that's not something I can comment on. In relation to the other technical matters that were raised, all I can do is refer you to the report. All of the application documents are assessed by technical third-party bodies, the Highway Authority, the drainage bodies, etc. And you will have seen from your report that it comes back essentially with a clean bill of health as far as all those technical considerations are concerned. Thank you.
Councillor Sarfas?
What about those comments that were made about protected parts of the land? How do you think that will affect the development, building those houses?
Well, I certainly heard and am aware of the existence of ridge and furrow, but as you were made aware, ridge and furrow is relatively common in Harborough District. So yes, some people will see the loss of ridge and furrow as regrettable. Some people will see that the loss of common ridge and furrow is significantly outweighed by the provision of affordable houses for people in housing need locally.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Our last speaker is Councillor Robin Hollick. As ward member, you've got 5 minutes. You'd like to start when you're ready, and you'll be given a 30-second.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am one of 3 district councillors for Smeaton, Westby and Kibworth, and I'm here tonight to represent the 3 of us and also the residents of Kibworth and Smeaton, Westby, and I'm going to ask you to refuse this application. It's quite interesting just listening to all of the things that have been said tonight, all of the very valid reasons why this application should be refused. And I've just listened to a gentleman talking about an area of separation. Well, my understanding is that if you have one village on one side, another village on the other side, the area between them is a separate area. So I would call that a separation. It's quite interesting to think that in 870, a group of people that really came from Denmark settled in that area called Smeaton Westerby. About a similar time in the late Saxon period, a group of people settled in Kibworth. And for 1200 years, the 2 villages have been separate. They have their own identity, they have their own culture, and it will continue to be that way. If you allow this application to proceed, the 2 villages won't exist anymore. They will become 1 village. And I would ask you to keep the heritage, the environmental things that you see in our villages as they are now. And I would ask you to refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollick. Has anyone got any questions? No? Oh, right, Councillor Wellman.
It's not a question, but it's just
Yeah.
a point that, Robin, you're not representing me on this.
Oh, sorry, I do apologise.
I come to this with an open mind.
That's all
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. That was our last speakers. Oh, what's the matter? Oh, you've got something to say, Councillor Graves?
I
Would
was
you like
just
to
putting my
start?
hand up to
Would
be
you
the
like to
first
start?
speaker.
Carry on then.
Is that okay? Thank you. I was getting ready, Councillor Hollick, for some sort of story about the Smeaton Westerby descendants of the Danes making a bit of a push towards the Anglo-Saxon Kibworth then, but it didn't seem to come out.
Smeaton Westby was very much from the Dane. Kibworth from the Saxon side.
Thank you, Councillor Hollick.
Anyway, sorry, I thought I'd just raise that little anecdote because I don't know if anyone else was getting ready for it, but anyway, nice to have finished it. I have been looking at this very carefully, and I just want to say I am greatly concerned. You almost couldn't find a position almost exactly equidistant between the 2 communities. Whilst it's technically correct that it's not in an area of separation, that's because it's within the Smeaton Westerby parish boundary, along the boundary with Kibworth. So the area of separation is the pink area to the north, according to the maps. This is just over the border from the area of separation. Therefore, it is separate from the core Smeaton Westerby village. So I'm not happy at all with this location. I do support the officer's views, and I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gare.
Yes, I use this road on a regular basis at a fairly leisurely pace. I haven't seen any Vikings, I have to say. But I think the officer's opening paragraph sum up this refusal really very, very well. It is an area of separation, whatever definition you may put on that, and to put these houses in there would ruin it and opens up the possibility of further development. And there are other areas around the Kibworths which would take these houses without the intrusions that this will provide. I would also make the point we've got 28 houses here, might generate 56 vehicles, that's a guess. This road going into Kibworth becomes a single track road because of the parking by the time you reach the T junction at the end. And very rarely you can get down there without having to stop.
So I think this is an inappropriate development for all those reasons.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, I was on the site visit yesterday and I thought this was an inappropriate place to have the housing. I'm also think that the Wigan Borough is very important. There's a number of applications been here lately that have disregarded the Wigan Borough. And to me, it is important. And I'm happy to put this forward.
So you're proposing refusal? Okay. Councillor Scott? Okay, Councillor Scott. Councillor Moder, I'll come to you in a minute, Councillor Wellborn.
Thanks, Chair. Just a query really. We have this area of separation banded around by Councillor Hollock and the Speaker and various of us here. Can we just clarify? So I always thought that an area of separation had to be designated in local planning policy to be an AOS. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Nicola?
Yes, through you, Chair. The officer sums this up at paragraph 6.54, 6.59 of your report and makes it clear that the site is not within a designated area of separation. But then he goes on to say that clearly the two settlements that would develop in this field would reduce separation between those two villages. So that's where he's coming from. And then the evidence of the local plan is a material planning consideration that we can take into consideration, even though the local plan hasn't been submitted yet. That is evidence and that is a material consideration.
So going on then from that, couldn't we make it an AOS so that it protects it even further from this sort of application?
Be through the local plan.
Yeah,
that's the way we would have to do it.
Okay, yeah, all right. And then the second thing is the Ridge and Furrow argument. Again, just to clarify in my own head, I always thought that Ridge and Furrow was a non-designated heritage asset.
That's correct, yes.
So it's not something that we can say, okay, it's Ridge and Furrow, so we can't go there.
No, it's a non-designated heritage asset, and the NPPF does talk about non-designated heritage assets, and we do need to take that into account.
But how important, where on the scale would that be?
Well, obviously, it's not as obviously high up as a listed building or a conservation area, which are heritage assets. But Ridge and Furrow is still important, and it comes down to the level of the amount of Ridge and Furrow that's going to be removed, how commonplace it is within that particular area, how well defined it is. So it does come down to the individual merits of that particular part of Ridge and Furrow.
All right, so on a case-to-case basis.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, then. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you, Councillor Wellborn.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to repeat the points that others have made so well, but I also have a major issue with this. I mean, if you look at the maps, you can just see how close this will make Kibworth to Smeaton Westby, and you build houses there and it's never coming back again, and it won't be long until the two villages are joined up together, and I would be very worried about that. Councillor Gay, you made a point about the traffic as well. I entirely agree, although highways has no problems. I would suggest that they need to come at school time when it's absolutely crazy down there, and it's not going to be any better with 28 homes there at all. I'm happy to support the recommendation, and I hope you can see the back of it once and for all. Thank you.
Councillor Sarfas.
Yeah, the concerns about the rules on protected land and protected wildlife needs to be stronger on protection on this. I'm against it, obviously, and the pylons remind me of the Lutterworth East development. Why you want to build houses right near electron pylons where you would put no safety in that development. But yeah, I definitely want to see stronger rules on protection for villages and for their wildlife.
Thank you, Councillor Sarfas. Has anyone else got anything to say? Councillor James?
I'm getting the impression that these two communities don't get on very well. Which is sad, really. I'm concerned about that. But I'm also concerned about ridge and furrow, and I'm concerned about the pylons too. So I'm going to support the refusal.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll move to the vote now. So if Sarah would like to take over, it's been proposed and seconded that we refuse this application.
So a motion is being made to refuse the application. So I'm going to ask each councillor in turn as to whether you're for the refusal, against the refusal, or whether you abstain. Councillor Bateman?
For.
Councillor Burrow?
For the refusal.
Councillor Elliott?
For the refusal.
Councillor Gadd?
For the refusal.
Councillor Graves?
For.
Councillor James?
For refusal.
Councillor Moder? Councillor Sarfas?
For refusal.
Councillor Scott?
For the refusal.
Councillor Wellband?
For.
And Councillor Worrell?
For.
That is unanimous, so the application is refused.
Thank you, everybody. That application is refused. Thank you. We'll just pause while the gallery is cleared. Thank you, everybody. We'll resume now with our next application, which is 25/00955/OUT. Wells Close, Woodway Lane, Claybrook Parva, outline application for the erection of 9 self-built dwellings on page 130 of your papers. Adrian Eastwood is presenting this one. Thank you, Adrian.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So an application for 9 self-build units, outline application. You'll see actually some of the descriptions, farm shop crops up. You've probably picked up the farm shop was omitted fairly early on in the scheme, but that's, you just see that terminology, for example, in the report heading. But just to clarify, it's outlined for 9 self-build dwellings now. So the site is just southwest, probably about just over half a kilometre from Claybrook Parva village, rectangular piece of land. I think I've got some aerial photos as well. How are they yet? So you can see it's enclosed by hedgerows, etc. There's a few sporadic developments in the area as you head up to Claybrook Parva itself is just off the northeast, the right hand side, top corner of this aerial shot. You'll see within the paperwork, there's been quite a few planning applications on the site, but the use of the land effectively remains as agricultural land. So I'm just going through the photos. Yep, I've got some photographs of the just the environments on the site, as you can see there. So it's sensitive on the so, and then we've got the layout. It's an outline, but we've got an effectively indicative layout here. Other than you'll see there's an outstanding objection effectively from the county ecologist, and that features on the third recommended reason for refusal. There are no technical objections to the application, for example, highways and flooding. However, the location of the site, situation outside of Claybrook Parva, which in itself is well down on the hierarchy of settlement developments. So effectively, it's an open countryside site. It will rely, in effect, on transport by the motor vehicle. So it's an unsustainable location well beyond the village, if you like, of Favourite Harbour. It's not a particularly convenient road, Woodway Lane, to access the village. It's a rural lane, narrow, unlit, no pavements. So it doesn't really meet sustainability criteria. On top of that, the development, the illustrative layout will appear, if built, very incongruous in its rural setting. So notwithstanding significant benefits in terms of contribution to housing generally, and in particular self-built housing, the council does have significant shortfalls in both. Notwithstanding that, as set out in the report, the locational issues in terms of lack of sustainability, if you like, suitability relative to the nearby settlements, and the impact this would have on the character and appearance of the area, plus the outstanding ecology issues. Those three things combine as three reasons that we outweigh the benefits, and hence we recommend a refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Adrian. We've got two speakers on this one. First speaker is Lance Wiggins again. You've got 3 minutes this time.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be quicker this time. And I'm going to return you to the tilted balance, of course. The tilted microphone is on, yes. So the tilted balance policy test requires decision makers to weigh the benefits against the harm, and to only refuse applications where the adverse impacts would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. In this case, the benefits of the application are clear, namely the provision of 9 dwellings which would make a contribution towards your overall land supply position, and of course the significant contribution towards meeting the deficit in self-build housing plots. The latest figure that I could find was that the deficit was at 125 plots as of October 25. The adverse impacts are marginal in my view. This overgrown former stables and unauthorised travellers site cannot reasonably be reused for agriculture, and its development for self-build dwellings would not have a significant effect on the character of this part of the countryside close to the village. In terms of the reasons for refusal, your office has considered the site to be in an unsustainable location for new housing. This is despite the fact that it's within walking distance of the village school and opposite a site where a self-build dwelling was consented by the council in late 2023. It's accepted that priority should be given to developments where services and facilities can be accessed on foot or bicycle, but that's not always the reality in the rural area. The location of the site would, however, offer a realistic alternative to journeys by the private car, as Ullersthorpe is within reasonable cycling distance. It's notable that the site's allocated for use by gypsies and travellers, and a recent report by the Three Dragons consultancy on behalf of the council describes it as being sustainably located. This report is incorrect, however, in concluding that the site is available for use as a traveller's site, as my clients have no intention of allowing this to take place. They wish to develop it as a much needed self-build site for 9 dwellings. In terms of the second reason for refusal, making a positive contribution to the locality, in my view, this interpretation is incorrect. The site has large areas of hard standing on it, and it's nondescript in character at best. The layout of the proposed development is appropriate, and an attractive scheme could be secured at reserve matter stage. The scheme includes a substantial area of new planting, as you've seen from the plans, and the overall character of the area would be improved. In respect of the ecology considerations, an application has been made to Natural England for a licence in respect of great crested newts, as adjoining landowners have been upset by activities on the unauthorised gypsy site further along Woodway Lane and have refused my client access to the land to survey the ponds. My clients have also been unable to conduct the reptile survey because of the time of the year, and this could be secured by planning commission.
Your time is up now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiggins. Has anyone got any questions? Councillor Graves?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wiggins, nice to see you. The documentation explains that certain information hasn't been submitted, and there is a holding objection and concern there. Could you just elaborate to the committee as to why an incomplete application is in front of us?
Absolutely. Chairman, that was just, Chair, that was just the last point I was making, really. There are two issues in relation to ecology, great crested newts and reptiles. In respect of great crested newts, we would have loved to have surveyed the ponds on adjoining landowners' land. Unfortunately, they've been spooked by the activities of the travellers down the road, whose application, of course, you considered on Tuesday. And understandably, they were unwilling to allow my clients' surveyors onto their land to survey the ponds. So I'm afraid the explanation for that one is very simple. And in fact, the explanation as to the reptiles point is also quite simple. We're in February, and unfortunately, we can't survey until April. So my suggestion would be that my client's more than willing to carry out that survey at the correct time of year, and so potentially that could be made a condition prior to the submission of reserved matters that reptile survey be undertaken.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Gare?
You said it was within walking distance of the village school, which is exactly right, but that lane would be totally inappropriate for a parent with children to walk along at school time. It's a very busy lane. There's blind bends at the bottom corner as you come down to the church glebe on the right hand side.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Well, that was actually a question, Chair. So that was a statement to which I disagree.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Wiggins.
Thank you, Chair.
Our next speaker is Mr. Ray Middlemass. If you'd like to come forward to the desk, please. We've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning when it's close to the end. Thank you. If you'd like to start when you're ready.
Stephen. I'm Raymond Middlemass and I've lived in Clearbrook Harbour for 48 years and lived and worked in the immediate area for 59 years. I'm a parish councillor and I live on Woodbury Lane directly opposite this application. And I have spoke with every resident on Woodbury Lane and we absolutely support this application 100%. And the residents I've spoken to in Clearbrook Harbour also support it, and the parish council has no objections whatsoever. The application would bring back to life a field that was abused and destroyed by previous owners, and the application would also generate a greater sense of security for all residents and provide extra homes in the parish. The applicants have been considerate of the residents, particularly those in Woodbury Lane, and kept us informed and talked at parish council meetings. They have also done every survey and followed Harbour District Council's planning rules and requests. Now, Clearbrook Harbour gave me a wife of 50 years this year, a home and a living, and a remarkable bunch of friends, old and new. And I would not support anything that would spoil this village. I hope the committee understands this and pass this application. But one more thing, I couldn't understand the word that the planning officer was saying. I couldn't hear that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Middlemass. Has anyone got any questions? No, thank you very much.
Just a couple of points to pick up on. Mr. Williams talked about obviously, as I did myself, 5-year supply, etc. Paragraph 6.12 of the report gives some analysis of the paragraph 11, if you like, of the MPPF. And Mr. Williams talked a little about situation of the site, the history in terms of Egyptian travel allocations, and that's covered in paragraph 6.14 of the report in terms of the existing local planning facts. And as you picked up, it's also in the emerging local plan, but the emerging local plan clearly has a very little weight to the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the committee now then. Councillor Gare?
Sorry, I just want to clarify, there is no longer a farm shop on that side.
Anyone? Councillor Gare again.
Sorry, right. One thing I would be concerned about is that this lane comes up to the A5, a junction with the A5 and Penn Lane on the opposite side. There have been a number of fatal accidents there. I know that because I know two of the people who were killed. And I went to look up the accident record last night and found that the road was closed because of another serious accident. There have been a stream of serious accidents there. It's at the top of a hill. You cannot see the lorries approaching from either side. And they're both coming off a dual carriageway, although one some further back. I know it's only a relatively small number of traffic, but that is a very dangerous junction.
Anyone else? Councillor James?
Question for Adrian, please. I mean, we've had no comment from Severn Trent, I see, and there's concern about pressure on local infrastructure, including the water supply. Why can't we get a comment out of Severn Trent? Would be my question to Adrian. Excuse me.
Well, obviously, I don't have the power to enforce that. I think in emerging planning guidance, it might be in the current emerging national planning policy framework. There's provisions potentially where if consultees, such as consultees, don't respond in appropriate time, then there's a responsibility to almost assume there's no comment there. But I obviously specifically can't answer for Severn Trent.
Okay, Adrian, thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Yes, Councillor Worrell?
Yeah, from my view, it looks like quite a nicely laid out site. As commented, there's a lack of self-builds within the district as well. So we have got a deficit there. And then also, I'd just like to comment, obviously, it looks like the parish council support this application. It mentioned about the suitability of the shop, but that's been removed now. So I'm quite supportive of this application to be approved.
Councillor Graves, you've got something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been looking up on my phone about the map, and I mean, this committee almost never approves of housing in the open countryside. We just don't do it, and I appreciate there may be other things going on with the parish council and the ward councillor, but I mean, according to my map, it's a 14-minute walk from this site to the middle of Claybrook, Parva, or somewhere near St Peter's Church. Anyway, it might be a 2-minute drive, but it's a 14-minute walk. And fair enough, it's 9 self-built dwellings, but we don't normally create miniature villages in the middle of nowhere. So I can't support this application. Okay, thank you.
There isn't a seconder for that proposal. Can I have a proposer? Or I'll propose it from the chair that we accept the officer's recommendation to refuse this application for the reasons put forward. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Gare? Anyone else got anything to say? So we'll move to the vote then. Sarah?
So a proposal has been made to refuse the application. So I'll ask each councillor in turn whether you are for the refusal, against the refusal, or whether you abstain. Councillor Bateman?
For refusal.
Councillor Burrell?
For.
Councillor Elliott?
For.
Councillor Gare?
For.
Councillor Graves?
For. That's my name, yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Graves?
For the refusal.